So my name is Brunhilde, and I've had the honor of being the director of this absolutely wonderful place for many, many years. I will tell you how many. I'm very delighted to welcome all of you to Reid Hall, which was gifted to Columbia University in 1964 by the Reid family. And today, it has become Columbia's European home away from New York City, which is very helpful these days for many of the scholars who come here. So Reid Hall's mission rests on a few key pillars. We host academic programs from several US-based colleges and universities, including Columbia's undergraduate programs in Paris and the Master in History and Literature. We are also deeply committed to research and creative projects led by visiting Columbia faculty and most prominently by the Institute for Ideas and Imagination. Equally important is our commitment to civic engagement, whether through residencies for displaced artists and journalists, or through programs, projects involving the arts, journalism, climate, and health, to name just a few. Together, these initiatives shape a rich set of public programs, often in collaboration with key partners in Paris. Tonight is the very first in a series of events we will be presenting throughout the academic year. And we are very pleased to have you with us as we launch our series of public programs that will be very exciting. So I now give the floor to Marie Doezema, who is the Paris director of the Institute for Ideas and Imagination. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Brun. So I'm Maha Al-Daya, and I run the Columbia Institute for Ideas and Imagination, which was established at Reid Hall in 2018. We are a fellowship program that offers 14 fellowships each year to a mix of academics from Columbia University and artists from all over the world and in all disciplines who are here for a year and in work and conversation, and often take the stage that's here. So I urge you to go to our website and look at the wonderful programming that we have, which I have nothing to do with. It's really the genius of the fellows that shines through and which contributes to the wonder that is Reid Hall. When the war broke out in Ukraine in 2022, we got a phone call from Valentina Izlievieva, who is the director of the Harriman Institute in New York and also a current fellow and also sitting right in front of me, who said, what could we do? It's going to be so complicated to get people over to New York in these circumstances, but with the open border policy that Western European countries have, it would be very easy to get them to Paris. And so Mark Mazauer, who's the director of the Institute, and myself got together, spoke to universities around Paris, and realized that universities had robust programs for welcoming academics, but what was thoroughly missing was ways to get artists out of Ukraine and into safety. And so with the incredible efforts of the extraordinary Valentina and the generosity of the Harriman Institute, we were able to welcome 4 artists from Ukraine in 2022-23. And then another formidable woman, Biebucyk, said, well, we should keep doing this. And so that's when the Displaced Artists Initiative really took form, and that's when it became an all Reid Hall project. And something that's fundamental to the activities of Reid Hall and essential to our mission, which is not only to cater to a small group of very privileged people, but also to go out in the world and do things, even if it's a drop in the ocean. I think that any little bit helps these days. And we are fortunate enough to be able to collaborate with several universities in Paris that welcome several of our artists, And I'd like to, in particular, thank the extraordinary Pose program, of which several people are here tonight. I think Marie and I agree that they're one of the most fabulous, indomitable group of women we've ever worked with. And so, thank you. So, with that, I'll let Marie introduce our artists for tonight, and I thank you again for being here. It means a lot to us, it means a lot to the artists, and to everybody else who will learn about their work and the wonderful work of all the organizations that help us welcome them to Paris.
Thank you, Brun, and thank you, Marie. So I am the other Marie, Doezema, who works on special projects, which is all of our civic engagement and journalism initiatives at the Columbia Global Paris Center with my colleague, James Allen, sitting in the back. I have the great honor tonight of thanking everybody who makes evenings like this possible, but also initiatives like this possible. First, I want to thank our 2 artists and our 1 journalist in residence, Maha Al-Daya, Doha Kahlout, and Hanna Liubakova, for sharing your creativity, your courage, and for being part of our community. It is truly a joy to be with you every day. And second, thank you again to our incredible colleagues at the Pause program who are doing visionary and truly life-changing work every day for French institutions and for humanity. And I also want to give a heartfelt thank you to our colleagues at Sciences Po and at Sergi for being such very stalwart forces along the way. Last but not least, thank you to all of my colleagues here who work so hard every day and many, many nights to make Reid Hall such a place of welcome, refuge, and inspiration. And lastly, I want to ask all of you to join us for a cocktail which will take place in the room just next door after tonight's event. We're going to begin the evening with a presentation by Maha Al-Daya, Palestinian artist from Gaza, whose work currently surrounds us. In addition to her painting and multidisciplinary artistic practice, she is also engaged in the design and embroidery of traditional Palestinian dresses. Her work explores themes of identity, memory, and resilience, often reflecting the socio-political realities of Palestinian life. Maha will be speaking tonight in Arabic, and Yasmin Haj will be translating into English. Thank you to you both.
مساء الخير للجميع واهلا وسهلا فيكم. شرفتونا اليوم وحضوركم مهم لنا. انكم تيجوا تسمعونا وتسمعوا قضيه غزه وشو اللي بيصير في مدينتي. اول شيء بدي اتشكر معهد الافكار والخيال جامعه كولومبيا. شكرا كثير على كل اللي قدمتوا لي اياه. شكرا كثير ماري على مقدمتك. بدي أتشكر بوز لدعم الفنانين وأعطاهم فرصة لأنه ييجوا هان ويكملوا مشروعهم الفني. شكرا لسيانس بو، شكرا لمعن على كل شيء بيقدموه للفنانين الغزيين في فرنسا. أول شيء
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for having me here. Thank you, Columbia Global Center for Ideas and Imagination. Thank you, Marie, for your introduction. Thank you, Sciences Po, and both for support. And thank you also for being here to listen to our story from Gaza.
أول شيء تحية للأمة الفلسطينية تحية للطفل الفلسطيني الصامد الصابر اللي لحتى الآن من سنتين وهو بيعاني.
I'd like to begin with greeting Palestinian children, women, and Palestinians who continue to suffer
بدي أغتنم الفرصة بس اليوم لأنه العيد عيدين فعيد زواجي بقدم مبارك لزوجي.
So this is two occasions in one. So I'd like to begin by saying happy anniversary to us, me and my husband, who is
بداية بدي أحكي عن المشروع الفني اللي هو بيحكي عن الكلمات بدون نقاط والخرائط، خرائط النزوح اللي هي أساساً مستمدة من المنشورات اللي كان يسقطها علينا الاحتلال الإسرائيلي وقت الحرب.
So I'd like to present my work exhibited here, which has two projects. So one is words without dots or without accents, and the other is inspired by the flares that the Israeli occupation would rain down on us in Gaza.
6 شهور مضت في الحرب كانت فترة جدا صعبة وقاسية. ما اشتغلت لا رسم ولا تطريز وهدول الخطين أنا بشكل شخصي ما بقدر أعيش بدونهم.
So I lived the war for 6 months in Gaza where I could neither paint nor do any embroidery, which are really my lifeline. This is what I live for and through.
التطريز الفلسطيني هو هويتي كامرأة فلسطينية غزية. أنا كل مناسباتي بحب أكون لابسة التطريز الفلسطيني بطرز للستات كنت في غزة للأفراح والمناسبات.
I would always wear embroidery. This is what I would always like to have on me. I would do embroidery for women in Gaza for any and all occasions there.
بعد ما غادرنا غزة والتجأنا لمصر سرعان ما يعني رحت اشتريت ألواني وماتيريال التطريز حتى أفكر بإشي أعبر فيه عن المعاناة والنزوح والألم والفقد اللي عشته هناك لما فقدت كمان والدي. فكله ترجمته بالتطريز برؤية أخرى يمكن حتى دلالة مفاهيمية بعيد عن المناسبات والأفراح فأخذ منحى تاني معي.
So as soon as we were displaced out of Gaza into Egypt, I tried to gather all the colors and materials that I needed to go back to my embroidery, but this time it would not be for happy occasions. It would be to try to translate the displacement and the suffering and the pain.
كلمات
also to translate the pain of losing my father.
طبعا والدي مهاجر من يافا 48.
My father was originally from Jaffa from 1948, Palestine.
فكانت صعبة عليه إنه يعيش النزوح مرة أخرى لما طلعنا من غزة التجأنا للجنوب.
It was difficult to live through displacement again. The first one, of course, being 1948. So it took a heavy toll on him to do that.
فأنا أمامكم الآن الفلسطينية اللي بحمل بطاقة لاجئ في وطني وأثناء الحرب حملت بطاقة نازح.
So, as a Palestinian, I carry the identity of a refugee in my own homeland, but now I also add to it the identity of a displaced person.
نحكي عن الخرائط كانت من خلال المنشورات اللي بينزلها علينا أو بسقطها علينا الاحتلال الإسرائيلي، فعمل إعادة جغرافيا لقطاع غزة من خلال تقسيم القطاع لبلوكات.
So the flyers that I represent over there in the maps, the embroidered maps, are what the Israeli occupation would hand down to us as displacement or evacuation maps, where it's divided the strip into blocks of displacement.
فأعطى كل منطقة في القطاع رقم من خلالها السكان بيقدروا يعرفوا رقم الحي تبعهم حتى يقدروا يتنقلوا من مكان لمكان، وهو بقول إنه في منطقة آمنة وما في غزة منطقة آمنة.
Each of these blocks or grid maps would carry a number, so that each neighborhood would know their number and then know which other numbered neighborhood they can be displaced into as a so-called or designated safe zone, but which were never really safe.
فتتضمن هاي المنشورات كانت كود. للأسف إنه لا كان في إنترنت ولا اتصالات، فليه كانوا يحطوا لنا الكود على المنشور ما بعرف، هو استفزاز أو إشي. فالأطفال كانت الأغلبية يعني كلنا تقريبا ناخد هاي المنشورات. أنا شخصيا كنت أعمل فيها قوارب أقعد أتفرج عليهم، يمكن قوارب المجال اللي كنا نحلم فيها إنه أطلع من غزة، أطلع من الجحيم والقتل اللي أنجو بولادي.
So each of these flyers would have a QR code so that we could scan it and then connect to the internet or whatever details they needed us to know. Ironically, of course, we had neither internet connections nor any electricity, so what would we do with it? Some people would play around with these flyers. Me personally, I would use them to do little boats, like origami boats, perhaps as a reference to my wish or desire to escape or leave Gaza and survive.
الأطفال كانوا يأخذوها يحرقوها لتوليع النار والأكل.
Other kids would use them to light up a fire or to heat up their food.
خرائط النزوح والإخلاء والنزاح القسري لسكان قطاع غزة هي كانت بمثابة وجع كتير كبير، فأنا استخدمت الإبرة والخيط للتعبير عن هذا الوجع.
The pain, of course, is unbearable. The pain of displacement, having to evacuate time and again. So I try to use the needle and the thread to try and express that kind of pain.
إلى جانب إنه كل قطعة من الحروف كانت تحكي عن قصة طفل فلسطيني. فليكن موت حكاية، هذه عملتها لهند رجب. كانت بتذكر في الحرب أسمع على الراديو صوتها اللي حتى الآن صوتها في ذهني ما بفارق. وفعلا هي صارت قصة للعالم كله، وبالنهاية هلأ عملوا عنها فيلم عن مش عارفة أنا كيف طفلة بتقدر تشوف أهلها قدامها بموتوا وتطلب النجدة والاحتلال شايفها كطفلة صغيرة لا تتجاوز 6 سنوات، وبعدين يعني بقتلها. ما بعرف، مش أنا شخصيا مش مستوعبة شو اللي بيصير.
It's hard for me to even now understand or absorb what was happening, but these are attempts, the words over there, to express children's stories over there. So for instance, what you see in the middle there with the gazelle, فليكن موتي حكاية, is in reference to Hind Rajab, who was shot to death along with her family around her in the car. I still can't wrap my head around that story and the pain that she had to live through before dying, as well as I can never forget her voice on the radio trying to call for help. Her story is now being the words in Arabic make my death become a story or a tale, is also now being made into a film.
ليس مجرد ركام، كان معرضي قبل شهرين من الحرب تماما. يمكن هلا شفتوا بالفيديو الصور عن المباني المدمرة في حرب 2021.
So the third embroidery from that side, ليس مجرد ركام, so it's not merely rubble, is the title of my exhibit from 2021, a few years back, and I was trying to, so what you see over here, perhaps, some of those works from the exhibit.
هي البيت الفلسطيني مش مجرد هلا بيقصف الاحتلال المنزل بس، هذا في ناس كانوا عندهم حياة، عندهم أحلام، عندهم يمكن الحيطان بتقدر تحكي عن أمانيهم، لمة العائلة، لمة الأصدقاء.
Houses for Palestinians are just walls. They contain stories, dreams, memories. So perhaps the rubble can now speak for those. For us.
الخروج من البيت كيف الروح ما بتطلع من الجسد تماما.
Leaving one's home is exactly is the feeling of having one's soul leave their body.
اخترت هاي كمان ألوان العلم الفلسطيني، كتبت الكلمات باللون الأسود، لون الحزن والحداد اللي خيم على مدينتي. ألوان العلم دخلت في النمط تبع التطريز، وهذا النمط طبعا من خلال خبرتي يمكن لا يقل عن 20 سنة وأنا بشتغل في التطريز، فمن بحث ودراسة في الأنماط، فكنت معنية كل نمط يعكس الكلمة المكتوبة.
So the colors I use in my embroidery are the colors of the Palestinian flag. The words are written in black, which is a mourning over what's being done to my land, to my homeland, my city. And then the embroidery, the patterns of embroidery, so the cross stitch or each pattern tries to express what the words are saying, or tries to be in harmony with the words that I'm saying.
الفيديو بيعكس حياتي كلها، شريط حياتي تقريبا، كيف كنا وكيف صرنا، وفقدت كل شيء تقريبا في غزة، مطرزاتي، الثياب اللي كنت بجمعها على مدار سنين، لأنه كان عندي مشروع وشغل الشغل إنه الثوب الفلسطيني ليش من بعد 67 بطل فيه تطريز.
So the video you see over here is also a reflection of my life. Before I lost everything, including the embroidery that I would collect over the years, I've realized that ever since 1967, so the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, not many embroidery was being done. So I started collecting, but I also lost all of that.
الرجوع للذات ذاكرة كتير إشي مش بسيط وصعب إنك تفقد كل إشي بلحظة واحدة، حتى لو إنك عايش وعندك القدرة إنك يمكن تحاول تعيد بناء حياتك من أول وجديد، بس برضو صعب جدا. يمكن اللي بيصبر شوي إنه زوجي الحمد لله وأولادي معي وبخير، بس كنت على أمل إنه أقدر أحصل إشي من اتيابي، من مطرزاتي، لوحاتي اللي بقيت هناك، بس للأسف غزة كل ما بتتدهور أكثر يعني ما بعرف الإبادة إمتى بدها تخلص والجحيم والمقتلة إمتى بدها تنتهي، ما بعرف.
Revisiting those memories isn't easy at all. It's very painful. Trying to start anew isn't easy. Perhaps the only thing keeping me okay and giving me strength is knowing that my husband and my daughter are here in good health. Otherwise, trying to retrieve all of my belongings, my paintings, my artworks, my embroidery is becoming harder and harder by the day, given the deteriorating situation in Gaza and the ongoing genocide, massacres, and never-ending chaos.
بالنسبة للرسم والألوان الزيتية بحسها بتعطي حياة أو بترجع الحياة يمكن للطفل الفلسطيني وأحلامه، لأنه انحرم من التعليم، انحرم من الصحة. يعني أنا بس أشوف هلأ الأطفال اللي ما في مدرسة، ما في حتى علاج لهم، كتير صعب. اللي بموت يمكن الفقد جدا صعب، بس المشكلة الأكبر بالولد اللي عايش يتيم الأبوين. هذا المشكلة الأصعب يعني.
So the oil painting for me is a way of giving back life to children who lost everything. I also think about the children, of course, who were killed, but also what pains me most are the children who are still alive but have been orphaned and have no one else left.
ما بدي أطول عليكم أكثر، بس شكرا لكم مرة ثانية، شكرا لحضوركم، شكرا للكل اللي وقفوا معنا وساعدونا اللي خلوني أكون موجودة هان بلادكم، لأنه هذه بعتبرها بلد الثاني، وحلمي كان من وأنا صغيرة إني أرجع أعيش في باريس. فشكرا مليان على كل اللي قدمت لي، ميرسي من كل قلبي. شكرا للجميع و vive la France, vive la Palestine.
So in conclusion, I'd like to thank everyone. I don't want to keep on talking, so I'd like to thank everyone who is here and also everybody who gave their support to me, especially Marie. And this was always my dream to live in Paris. I consider it my second home. It's always been a dream of mine, so I'm happy to be here, and then the rest is a new transition.
Thank you so much, Maha, and thank you, Yasmin. Next, we will be hearing from Doha Kahlout, a Palestinian poet and teacher of Arabic. She graduated from Al-Azhar University with a BA in Arabic language and media studies, and in 2018 published her first collection of poetry. Since then, she has gone on to publish poetry and essays in a variety of international journals and media outlets and has participated in so many festivals, even since just arriving in France last spring. Doha will be sharing a selection of poems tonight in Arabic. Alice Oswald, poet and fellow at the Institute for Ideas and Imagination this year, will be reading the translations in English, and Tessa Overvoort, our colleague at Reid Hall, will be reading the French. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad you are here tonight, and I really hope that next time we meet, Gaza will be safe and its people free. خطى أمل وألم بنصف ذاكرة وصور معطوبة أقلب الماضي أردد الأسماء لا صوت لها والقلق ملبيا يجيب تدور الشوارع والبيوت في عقلي تدور فارغة إلا من الخوف تركت أعواما وتجارب دموعا وضحكات وداعا ولقاءات وركضت النجاة غاية مفقودة والأمل وسيلة محتاج.
With half a memory and ruined images, I turn over the past, repeating names that have no sound. Anxiety echoes back. The streets revolve, and the houses in my mind revolve, empty except for fear. I leave behind the years of experience, the tears and laughter, the farewells and encounters, and I run. Survival is a mirage, hope a device for the needy.
سقطت في الندم وعن معاني الحياة بدأت بحثا جديدا قدم ترسم الخطى وأخرى تقاوم الخطأ في الوجوه قاموس الصبر وجده ومرادفات الشوق وفي الحديث قصص بكرها انفجار ضارب وفي قلب لا أعرفه وعين لا تلقى دمعها وخط يكبله جهل الجديد.
I fall into regret. For the meaning of life, I go back to drawing board. One foot tracing the steps, the other resisting missteps. In faces, a dictionary of fortitude, a thesaurus of longing. In conversation, stories amputated by a stray explosive, and in me, a strange heart, an eye unable to contain its tears, a footstep hobbled by not knowing what now.
حملت ما كان وما أكونه الآن علمت ماضيا وتعلمت غيرني البقاء وما فرض ونمت الكلمات في صمت عاجز شكلتني التجربة وحاصر الجسد بيت لا يعرفه وطرق لا تؤدي إليه لكن أملا يذوب بين حديثنا نلوكه ويلوك وعوده نصدقه طويلا ولا نغادره.
I carried all that came before and all that I've become. About my history, I schooled others and was schooled. I was changed by this endurance, by hard necessity. Words grew in helpless silence. The ordeal shaped me. The body was besieged by a house unknown to it, by roads that do not lead to it. but hope leaks between our conversations. We chew its promises. For a long time, we believe it, and we don't let go.
أسى غائب صوت الدهشة، لا ماء يطل على نهري، أكتب عن رحيل أغنية وجفاف واد بهيج، مكبلة بالذكرى أرقم اللقاءات، أقيدها وأبكي الغياب، مر طعم القصائد ونوافذ النهر تشتهي احتضان ماء، أدور حول الغيم وأرتجيه، يا رب الغيم بلل فؤادا متعبا بالأغنيات.
Deuil. Absente est la voix de la stupeur. Pas d'eau qui surplombe mon fleuve. J'écris l'exode d'une chanson et la sécheresse d'une vallée radieuse. Menotté à ma mémoire, je numérote les rencontres. Je les consigne et je pleure l'absence. Amer est le goût des poèmes. Les affluents du fleuve ont soif de la caresse de l'eau. Je tourne autour du nuage et j'attends. Ô Seigneur nuage, arrose ce cœur fatigué de chansons.
هروب من صور جماعية، أسمي الأسماء العاجزة والمعاني المقيدة، ألم حصيلة قلب وفكرة ونهر يصب جريان كلماته فيا، غمسوني بعقل الأولين وبجناحين مبتورين قالوا حلقي، جثمت وأثقلت، رفضت الإجابات ورفضتني الصورة الجماعية.
I call out powerless names, the narrow definitions. A pain resulting from restriction and from thought. A river releasing the current of its language into me, plunging me into the mind of the ancients. With a pair of clipped wings, they say, in my throat. I crouch, overcome by the weight. I refuse answers. The group photograph rejects me.
جررت خطاي العنيدة، رصفت طريقي والنهر غاضبا يلقم من قلبي، لا أعبأ بالخطب، المعاني بابي المطروق، تجربتي خطايا وخطئي، رضاي وسخطي، وعبرت لا قلبي معي ولا النهر، على ظهري حملت الأصوات الخائفة ونمت على كتف الإجابات، وسألت شجرة سقطت منها أول الزمان بلون واسم وصوت يحاول من أكون، فصمت وصمتت، قلت وما الحرب، محاولة الخروج وشهوتها، قالت حملت الإجابة والإشاحة، قلبت الحقائق وقبلتها، وانطلقت كطير يعرف فضاءه وعشه بقلب مشبع وعينين جائعتين للنجاة. سيجتني الدهشة وحفر الجسد بصوت أربابنا المعجونة، فأكلوا ما تبقى من صوت وطوق. أعيتني الطمأنينة ورأيتها خلف سياج الدهشة تلوح لي، أعرفها وأعرف بها ولا تصلني.
I drag my stubborn footsteps, pave my path. The river is angry, slapping my heart. I no longer care about footsteps, about meaning, about the knocks on the door, about my experiences and mistakes and missteps, my satisfactions and my grievances. I cross with neither my heart nor the river. On my back, I carry frightened voices asleep on my shoulder. To the tree from which I dropped at the beginning of time, with a colour and a name and a voice that tries. I call, who am I? The tree hears nothing, says nothing. I say, what is war? A stab at immortality, a lust for it. I carry the answer and the explanation. I turn the facts over and accept them. I set off like a bird that knows its expanse and its nest, heart full and eyes hungry for salvation. Astonishment fences the room. The body is dug with the voice of our masters. They have eaten what remained of longing. Reassurance dazzles me. I see it waving at me behind the fence of amazement. There it is. I recognize it, but it cannot reach me.
This text from talking about corridor صلاح الدين. عمر مسروق، حلم ملقى على مفترق، وأظافر تنبت عشبا يابسا، وفم ذكر حديثه. في العيون لحظة لم يقرأها العرافون، ولم تنبئ بها مناشير الأخلاق، مفتوحة على مدى لا يعرفه إلا الموت. الدم محاولة نجاة مخادعة، على مفترق تنتهي الأحلام دون مثوى أخير، ولا أياد تشعل شمع الوداع. غدرت وعود الأمان براءة العمر، ومضغ الوقت أسئلة الأحبة وثقل الغياب.
Vie volée. Un rêve jeté au croisement. Des ongles qui poussent comme du bois sec. Une bouche amputée de ses mots. Dans les yeux, ce bref instant que les devants n'ont pas su lire, que les tracts d'évacuation n'ont pas annoncé. Ouvert sur une étendue que seule la mort connaît. Le sang est une tentative de survie troubleuse. Au croisement, les rêves s'achèvent sans dernière sépulture, sans main pour allumer les bougies d'adieu. Les promesses de quiétude ont trahi l'innocence de la vie. Le temps a mâchonné les questions des êtres chers. Lourde est devenue l'absence.
بحر دللني بحرك يا غزة، ومن ماء اليأس انقذني. في هدير موجه هدأ غضبي، وأمن الخطى على مده. أمشي معه دليلا وإجابة، وصديقا يعرف النهاية ويعرفني، وفي الخيال أراه يحملني نحو طمأنينة مرجوة، ويهدهد صمتا ملحا، يحنو على شوق مبن، ويغالب اضطراب الأمل فيه. في الصوت والنسمة وجلجلة الحديث حولي، في اختباء الشمس ويقظتها، انتشلني بحرك يا غزة وحيرها الفكر. من أين يأتي بالوعود بحر سلقت حركته وقيدت حدوده؟
Gaza, your sea has spoiled me. It saved me from the waters of despair. It tempered my rage in its grumbling waves, and its tide provided safe passage. I walk beside it as my guide, full of answers, as a friend who knows me and the end. I see it in my daydreams. It reassures me, lulls me away from a persistent silence of exhausted yearning. It fights the waning hope in me. Your sea, Gaza, has rescued me. With its sounds, breezes and chatter all round it, with its sun as it hides and rises. it boggled our minds. How does a sea, its movement paralysed and borders blocked, come up with its promises?
في رثاء غزة القديمة وشوارعها، لشهور شاهدنا المطرقة تضرب عصب المدينة وتحط ثقلها بغلظ وتسحق مع أرواحنا تاريخاً تهادى على عتبات الزمن. لشهور سجلنا ما نجا في الذاكرة وبكينا السنين التي نزفت تحت الركام. قدمنا وعودا سننفخ فيك ونعيدك رمزا وتاريخا. استدرت كأن لا وعود ولا أصوات ولا دموع ورحلت.
Éloge funèbre pour la vieille ville de Gaza et ses murs. Pendant des mois, nous avons vu le lourd marteau s'abattre sur le maire de la ville, l'écraser de toute sa fureur, broyer, en même temps que nos âmes, une histoire chancelante sur les marches du temps. Pendant des mois, nous avons gravé dans notre mémoire ce qui pouvait être sauvé. Nous avons pleuré les années en sang sous les décombres. Nous t'avons fait le serment de t'insuffler de nouveau la vie, de te restaurer en tant qu'emblème et histoire. Tu t'es détourné, comme s'il n'y avait pas eu de serment, ni de pleurs, ni de voix, et tu as disparu.
Thank you, Doha. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Tessa. Our final speaker of the evening is Hanna Liubakova, Reid Hall's official first ever journalist in residence. After several years of hosting Displaced Artists, we decided this past year to open the residency to journalists as well. A decision inspired by our other journalism initiatives at the center and an acknowledgement of the increasingly perilous position of journalism and journalists around the world. Hanna is an exiled journalist and political analyst from Belarus. She's also a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and has written about developments in Belarus for many international outlets. During her residency at Reid Hall, she will be focusing on completing her book, Exiled Voice, Preserving Belarus's Story. Thank you, Hanna.
Hello everyone, bonsoir. How are you guys holding up so far? You can say something, it's very scary out here. So I will be speaking about my book without a book because I'm still writing it. So I will talk about Belarus because I think probably not many of you here are aware of this country and what's happening there. So I decided to make a sort of brief introduction into the country and my story as well. Thank you so much. What is the sound of the revolution? That's clap, or maybe when they sing, or maybe something else. So maybe it's when cars honk. Revolution is never silent because it's an eruption of people's will. But to me, revolution happens when klaxons break from too much honking. It shows we're here, we are present, but maybe we just pressed too hard for too long. That's exactly what happened in Minsk 5 years ago. Minsk is the capital of Belarus in my hometown, and I remember how people rushed to help fix those broken klaxons. That's the sound of solidarity. I left Belarus 5 years ago. Since then, I have not been able to return. Last year, the regime launched a criminal case against me and 19 other internationally based journalists, scholars, scientists, analysts. We had, according to the regime, very creative offenses. Everything from extremism to threat to national security to an attempt to seize power. We obviously had to joke that it was the best networking opportunity because many of us had not met before. And that was not enough because after that, the regime added us both on the terrorist list and an extremist list. We had two in Belarus, both. And there was another joke that we had that it felt like winning a full house in poker because what else can you have? But that's obviously not unique in Belarus. In Belarus, every organization from a women's shelter to bird watchers to a media outlet can be extremist. And after that, I was tried in absentia. I was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And if you ask me what I did, I am unaware. I don't know because the regime did not send me any documents. The court refused to share any information. So it was truly Kafkaesque. They only revealed that my articles fueled protest sentiments and divided society. So that's apparently what I did. A little bit more of a personal drama. So when I was living in Belarus, it felt like betrayal. It was still the end of August, protests were still happening in Belarus. And for me as a journalist and citizen, it was really hard to leave, but soon the police came to my apartment searching for me, and they also arrested my friend. He took this picture. That's when I was still in Belarus, that's very dear to me. They asked me, interrogated him, asked him about me, and showed him our private chats. So I understood that the way home wouldn't probably happen too soon. A year later, I traveled to another CIS country. I was arrested there, but luckily I was not sent to Belarus, as you see. I was sent back to the EU, and now at WIHO, I'm writing a book about the past 5 years for Belarus, for Belarusians, about the protests that swept the country and how people endured it. You see, revolutions are often romanticized. These are beautiful pictures of people resisting this repressive machine, resisting authoritarianism, but behind every photo are just people with their lights touched. That's my friend, Hanna. She was arrested in 2020. She was sentenced to 8 years in prison just because she reported about the protests, she covered them. Last week, her husband, was sentenced to 4 years in prison. He could have left Belarus and be safe and free, but he decided to stay to be on the same planet with his wife, with Katerina. He would travel across the country to bring her something small to prison to brighten up her day. And we once worked on an investigation, and now instead of publishing more articles, they're both locked up. Another story of my friend, Biebucyk, was also arrested in 2020. His daughter Paulina was only 2 years old. He was sentenced to 15 years old. His charges, organizing mass protests. But here's the irony. Mass protests began after he was arrested. So Belarus is probably the only country in the world where you can organize a rally from prison without internet access. Luckily, Igor was released around 2 weeks ago thanks to the US effort. But imagine that, instead of reuniting with his family, going back to his hometown, he was forcibly deported. He was taken to the border with the EU, his passport was confiscated, so he was kind of sent into exile, and his daughter, who barely remembers him, is left behind. The regime in Belarus turned the country into a giant prison where it keeps the best minds, Nobel laureate Analyst, musicians, poets, artists, businessmen, politicians. Tens of thousands of people were repressed in a country of roughly 9 million. We used to joke that our revolution was truly democratic because it involved every layer of society. That's the dark humor Biebucyans have. Women played a crucial role. When security forces shot people dead on the streets, it was women who first came out and continued protesting with flowers, sometimes wearing white colors. Then it was the elderly, it was athletes, it was students. We had a schedule of rallies of those different layers of society who would come out to the streets and protest. Sovereignization was deep and natural, and I always say that I cannot run out of stories because that was the revolution of ordinary heroes. But I, in my book, don't want to turn them into symbols. I want to show them as people, and I want to show what it costs to resist and speak out. 5 years on, repression continues on a daily basis. People are being put into prison not only for protesting, but for clicking a like on social media, for writing a comment in support of Ukraine and against the Russian war, for wearing our national colors, which is white and red. So the question is, why should this matter to you here in Paris? You see, the path from human rights violation to war and regional threat proved to be very short. In the past 5 years, Alexander Lukashenko crossed all the lines. First, the regime forced down a civilian airplane to arrest a dissident blogger. You might remember this story, 2021, Ryanair. Then it weaponized migration at the EU border to destabilize EU neighbors such as Poland, Latvia, and Lithuania. The UN amounted the violations of the regime to crimes against humanity. So when the regime crushed protests and built a system of fear, it gave Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, exactly what he needed, a springboard for war. So in February 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, it invaded also through the territory of Belarus because it was the shortest way to Kiev, to the Ukrainian capital. Belarusians went out to the streets, they protested, but in a day, 1,000 people were arrested, so we had to find a different way how Ukrainians show our discontent. We had railway partisans, people who stopped or slowed down the movement of Russian troops in Belarus. We had cyber partisans, hackers who hacked governmental websites to disrupt operations. We also had tens of thousands of people who would submit information about every movement of a Russian soldier on Belarusian soil and then send out this information. So most Belarusians are against this war, being involved in this war, yet Lukashenko still supports Putin in every way possible. Now, allegedly, Belarus hosts Russian nukes. And also, you might know recently during the Russian drone incursion into Poland, some of the drones flew from the territory of Belarus too. So you see how all of it is interconnected. But here on this map, you have one town that stands out. It's Nizhyn. It's the Ukrainian territory, but it's close to Belarus. That's where my grandparents are coming from, and that's where I used to spend summers as a child. Most recently, Russia has been attacking Nizhyn with drones, and my distant cousin was killed in one of these attacks. His name is Alexander Gula. He was 45. He served in the slow protection service. So he saved lives until the very last moment. We never met with him, but it feels like part of my history is being taken away with him. One name constantly comes up throughout my speech. It's Alexander Lukashenko, the dictator of Belarus. I was only 5 when he was elected. Belarus was fresh out of the Soviet Union. People longed for stability. He was young, energetic, he spoke against corruption and post-communist nomenclature. So people were charmed. And in 1 year, it turned out that he had real authoritarian habits. So he took control over parliament, the media, the courts. People went out to the streets, they protested. We had first political prisoners, and then the regime resorted to political murders. I was 10 when politicians, journalists, businessmen were abducted, their bodies were never found. And I remember their names being written and painted over the walls in Minsk. I was wondering who were they? But that felt distant. By the time I turned 14, that stopped being distant. My high school was shut down by the regime because we studied in the Belarusian language instead of Russian. We protested as kids. We also launched an underground school, our own, with our teachers. So don't make teenagers angry, they can resist. And this experience gave me 3 lessons that I bring throughout my life, and the ones that I want to highlight in my book. The value of community, the power of education-free ideology. Free thought is something that is very dear here, I believe. And the fact that certainty, the certainty that dictators cannot be changed, they cannot be replicated. Appeasement would only embolden them. One woman challenged Lukashenko more than anyone expected in 2020. Her name is Svetlana. She is the wife of a blogger, Sergei Tsikhanovsky, who was arrested. And he wanted to run for president. So he was arrested, and she decided to run instead of him. I don't know what we do for love in your country, but we go and run for president. So the Electoral Commission, she was a housewife taking care of her children, so the Electoral Commission was not scared of her, so they did not see her as a threat. How wrong they were. Never underestimate women, and Belarusian women especially. So she got registered as a candidate, as a presidential candidate, and she united forces with 2 other women, and the 3 of them, we called them the female trio. They toured across Belarus, they gathered immense support. They were everything what Lukashenko was not. They were empathetic, they were sensitive, vulnerable, honest. They promised free and fair elections. And that hope, I remember, that gave so much hope to people. So the elections in Belarus have always been falsified since Lukashenko came to power. That's how he stays in power. But at polling stations where we had commissions that revealed true results, we saw that she won, and we also had an alternative voting system in Belarus. We had everything alternative as well. So we had a voting system that showed that she defeated Lukashenko in the first round. And now she has this legitimacy, and she travels across the world and represents Belarus. She will be soon in Paris, by the way, in the beginning of October. Sergei was also released, her husband, even though he was initially sentenced to nearly 20 years. He was released thanks to US effort most recently, and he began doing what he did before, which is connecting with people and sharing information. And I wanted to really briefly, because we have cocktails, to talk about the power of information and why this is so important. So for me, for the outside world, telling Belarus story is my mission. This is something that I do, and I believe that this is important. But inside Belarus, information became a real battlefield. Propaganda only works when it monopolizes the conversation. But when independent journalists exist, even underground, even in exile, it can shape opinions, and it can also provide a vision of a different country, of a different future. So in Belarus, those people who have access to independent information would rather not support the Russian war against Ukraine, they would support Ukraine, and they would also support pro-democratic European future. And you might be wondering why these pictures. The first one is obviously from the times when we worked in Belarus with my colleagues, but this one, you see, is a flower. So it's a flower that a female protester gave me. I was covering rallies, I was on the streets of Minsk, and I was wearing this vest. So she approached me, she had this flower in her hair. She approached me, she thanked me for my work and gave me that flower. So I remember writing that it's easy to admire Belarusians, and I believe it's still true. And lastly, what happens in Belarus interests me most today, and it may seem small, teachers having underground lessons in the Belarusian language just as I did 20 years ago, publishers publishing in Belarusian, or people learning about their history, about their language, identity. But this is not small. That's the foundation for national revival. We know from history that languages and memory build independent states. So dictators want silence, and I believe that we as Belarusians will always find a way how to make noise, even if it means honking your klaxon just so it breaks. But I believe that we will rush and fix it together again and again. Thank you so much.
So much, Hanna. Thank you again to everyone for coming tonight, and please do join us next door. As Brun said at the very beginning of the evening, this is our first event of the academic year. We have so many more to come. We would love to have you back. Please check out our website, sign up for our newsletter, and please, everyone, feel welcome here. Thank you.